5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shalom, 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 everybody. This is Jermaine. This is another blueprint. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a video of me and of an exchange between me and Elder Mike Halloway on Berean TV, and we're going to look at the arguments that are being presented, whether they were fairly represented, and then we're going to look at and we're going to critique Elder Mike's take on a few passages in Galatians. Okay, so I want to say this is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe on copyright under Title 17 USC Section 107. Okay, this is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 USC 107. And so today we're going to be using this video of Berean TV and Elder Mike and I's exchange for the purposes of critiquing his argument, his position on a few passages in the Pauline epistle of Galatians. All right. So I just want to make that clear. That's what we're doing here. So let's get to it. Right? Let's get to it. No. Let me see here. My bad, y'all. My bad. I'm trying to find it. Work with me here. Okay, so we got to come over here, blue this, blue. All right. Well, let me start all over since I got it set now. Let's start all over. Let's make this time 4 minutes here. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. It is a beautiful Shabbat day today. This is another blueprint. I'm Jermaine Howe. What we're going to do on this video is we are going to actually critique a conversation between Elder Mike and I on Berean TV, and we're going to look at what my position is, and if Elder Mike represents my position correctly, and we're going to look at what his position is, and if his position is correct according to Scripture, and my position as well, to see if we are correct according to Scripture, and that's what I want to do. So we're going to look at Berean TV, and so because I'm doing that, I'm going to have to say this is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 USC 107. Fair use. Okay, so let's get busy here. Let's take a look at it. Look at the arguments here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through this and we're going to hear both sides of the argument. And I'm going to stop it every so often to say a few things because there's certain things I do want to point out, right? But to be honest with you, I don't think I was fairly represented, or I'm not going to say fairly. I'm going to say that I was my argument is being misrepresented by Elder Mike. Is being misrepresented by Elder Mike. So let's go through this and take a look at it.
430 years later. Now, and this is the dangerous thing towards many of the works of the law under the curse. And so Plummer wants us to believe that the curse of God is on those abiding on the tradition of the elders. So if the curse of God is on those that violate the tradition of the elders, according.
Okay. See, so that is not my position, but this is what Elder Mike is saying that my position is. My position is not that people are cursed if they violate the tradition of the elders in the New Testament, right? That's not my position. So I begin to question here, and you're going to hear I get a little agitated. It's a little frustrating because I feel like my position is very clear. Me and Elder Mike have talked about this several times on Berean's channel and on his own channel, and right, and in correspondence through Messenger on Facebook. So I'm trying to figure out, why does he not understand my position? And I start to feel like that maybe he's misrepresenting it on purpose. Now, I'm not accusing him of that now, but at the time of this conversation, that's how I felt. Because we've talked about this so many times. How is it that he is not understanding what my position is? You know, and then we're going to hear later on when Covey speaks, he understands my position clearly. So let's keep going.
To the point, if what he says is true. But what does this come from the tradition of the elders? Cursed is everyone that continue, if not in all things written in the book of the law. Was this the tradition of the elders here that Paul is quoting? No, this is the scriptures. This is scripture Paul is quoting. Paul is clearly quoting from Deuteronomy 27. Cursed is everyone who does not continue in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them. He's not talking about no tradition of the elders. Those things written in the book of the law, not in the verbal expressions of elders, but that no one is justified by the law in the sight of God is evident, for the just shall live by faith. Yet the law is not of faith. Period. He's not talking about no washing the hands. He's talking about the law. Which law? Things written in the book of the law. Now, anybody who try to make this the tradition of the elders, I mean, you just can't help them after that. And that's where, you know, again, I love Plummer. He know that. Hopefully he knows that.
Can I answer to you, Mike? Can I answer
to you? Sure, go ahead. I mean,
hold on one second. Covey, you got some time, Covey?
Yeah, I got some time, and I'm really just trying to listen to their position so I can see exactly what they're saying. You know what
I know you Mr. Tolman, man, all of a sudden. Go ahead, Plummer. Covey, go. I don't know. We've been waiting for you, Mr. Tolman. Go ahead, Plummer. Sorry.
Yeah, well, first, I just listened to Zadok beat you up on this exact same verse yesterday on the play.
You lost me at Zadok, bro. You lost me.
I'm talking about
I like it.
On your after party of y'all's debate. They replayed it yesterday on Debate Talk for You.
Yeah, so, I like Zadok. For the record.
So you keep telling me the works of the law have nothing to do with these Pharisees or rabbinical law. Okay, I want to stop it again. So now I don't really go into, because I've said this so many times, so I really don't try to correct him on the fact that he's misrepresenting my argument. But you see, I led off with the works of the law. So my position is that the works of the law are those things prescribed by the rabbis, the Pharisees of the time, and rabbinical teachers today, right? But at that time, the Pharisees, those things prescribed by them that they interpret out of the law as something that should be done, right, in order to be righteous. Not what the law itself says, but we're gonna talk about an example of it here. Elder Mike's gonna bring it up, but the washing of hands, right, before you eat. The Pharisees jumped on the disciples for doing it, and they went to the Messiah and said, "Why is it that your disciples, they transgress the tradition of the elders by not washing their hands before they eat?" Right? Even though there's no Torah law, no written law that says you have to do so. So this is something that, through their interpretation of what's written in Torah, that they made up. And that's what I mean by works of the law. Dead works that don't do anything for you. You understand that are commandments of men and not commandments of the Most High that don't do anything for you. So that's my position on the works of the law. And I got a series of it. Two series, the first series and another series on circumcision, and how the circumcision that they were trying to perform in those days was actually a work of the law. And actually, this is what Paul is actually, his whole argument in Galatians is surrounded about, this act of circumcision that they wanted the Gentiles to perform in order to be converted or saved, right? So he says he's representing my argument as if I'm saying that people are cursed if they transgress or break the traditions of the elders or the commandments of those men. And that's just not true. That's false. And I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, because I'm thinking like maybe he just don't really understand what I'm saying. Or maybe he's trying to, because what happens is a lot of times when we get on Berean TV, Israelites get on Berean TV and we speak, they don't listen to what we say. They're trying to build a case against our words. They're trying to deflect our words away from people hearing them, so they attack little aspects of what we say and never take an honest and truthful look at our position. And they always constantly misrepresent our positions. And when I now, as I go through here, we listen to this, it kind of makes me wonder if it's done on accident or if it's done on purpose. I'm not accusing Elder Mike of anything at this point, but you're going to see why I say that, right? Let's keep going. But that's just not the truth. And if we go back, because in order to really get the context of what he's saying here, you got to go all the way back and read it from the beginning. And so, yes, anybody who's following the rabbinical Pharisaic law is under the curse. You know why? Because Jesus himself said that you, by your rabbinical law, you nullify the word of God and you cause the people to sin against God. So if you sin against God, that's how the curses come. Am I right, Mike?
That's nonsense. It's nonsense, Plumber. It's nonsense.
The curses don't come by breaking the law?
No. That's not what I said.
No. What's the curse of the law?
Let me tell you what I mean.
Hold on. Answer the question first. Hold on. What's the curse of the law, brother?
I'm about to tell you, but I got to tell you my way, right? What I meant when I said nonsense, I was saying, because what you did is you hand cherry picked a verse where the Jews were exalting a tradition above the law of God to honor their parents. You tried to take that statement of Christ and put it as a blanket over all the traditions of the elders. There was no sin in washing their hands before eating. It's not so you're trying to tell me that if Jews are still continuing that custom of washing their hands before eating, they under the curse. That's
so see, he knows exactly what I'm talking about when I bring up the verse there about the Mashiach telling them that, you know, by your traditions you nullify the commandment of Elohim. He knows exactly, but he tried to limit it down to just the part where, because he goes on to mention. Now we got to. Matter of fact, let's look at this. Let me pull this up. Let me go out of here, and let's look that up real quick. Let's see if we can get a hold of that, so we can take a look at it, and see. You know that I feel like he's misrepresenting the argument here again. He's honing in on one aspect of what was being said at that time, right? And I think that is Matthew 5. So Matthew 17. It might be Matthew 17. I can't. Let's check and see. I could be wrong. Okay, no, it's not Matthew 17. So just give me a second. I'm sorry. But we got to work through this thing. Let me just do it like this then. We'll just do a word search on it. Tradition of the elders, right? Let's check that out. Matthew 15. I knew it had a 5 in it, right? And then I thought it was 17 because it was a team, right? But let's look at this. Let's look at the argument, right? I don't know if you guys can see that. Maybe that might not be big enough for you. Let me blow it up a little bit so we can read a little bit better. Let's do it a little bit bigger. It might be too big. All right, we'll stay there. So then came to Yeshua scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. But he answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandment of Elohim by your tradition? So I know Elder Mike wanted to say there was no sin in them washing their hands. And I think that's not washing their hands. And I think that was the Mashiach's point here. You understand? His point here is, why are you judging them about that, about your own tradition? That's what he's saying. So maybe Elder Mike is confused. And then it says, for Elohim commanded, saying, honor thy father and thy mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. But ye say, whosoever shall say to his father or his mother, it is a gift by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus ye have made the commandment of Elohim of none effect by your tradition. So he is giving them an example. So Elder Mike wants to limit this to that one incident or that one example that Mashiach gave to them, showing them how they nullify or make the commandment of Elohim of none effect, right? And then he goes on, he says, ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, this people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men, right? So this is what I mean by works of the law. They teach for doctrines the commandments of men. These are the works of the law. These are things that they created to be done. That's not actually according to Torah, according to the commandments of Elohim, according to commandments of Yahweh, just like the washing of your hands. That's what the Messiah was showing them. How are you judging them for not washing their hands? That ain't got nothing to do with Yah's law. That's your stuff. And then he goes on to say, he says, Thus ye have made the commandment of Elohim of not effect by your tradition. So he's showing them, he's giving an example of how by their tradition, they nullified the commandment of Yah. Right? So in every confrontation almost that the Mashiach has with the Pharisees, scribes, the Sadducees, and all that, it's always concerning their tradition, always concerning their law, not Yah's law, right? And then he said, and he called the multitude and said unto them, verse 10, hear and understand, not that which goeth into the mouth defileth man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this defileth the man. Right? Then came his disciples and said unto him, knowest thou that the Pharisees were offended after they heard this saying? So he told the people, because they were somehow saying it was wrong for them not to wash their hands before they ate. And he says, not what goes in. You know the old saying my grandfather used to say to me when I dropped a French fry on the floor or something, and he'd pick it up and eat. He'll say this, God made dirt and dirt don't hurt. That's what he used to say to me, right? So that's what basically what the Mashiach is explaining here. It's not what goes in. It's not because their hands are dirty, right? So, but I know they want to make that about pork and all unclean foods, but that's not the context. The context is unclean, dirty hands, not washing your hands first, right? Then check out what else he says. But he answered and said, after his disciples said that to him, that they were offended, verse 13, but he answered and said, every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be uprooted. He's saying that the Most High didn't put them in a position to make these rules. He's not talking about just that one that Elder Mike wants to relegate it to. He's saying that every plant that the Most High didn't plant, they're going to be uprooted. He didn't put them there. He didn't put them there. Let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. Then answered Peter and said unto him, declare unto us this parable. And Yahushua said, are ye also yet without understanding? Do not ye yet understand that whatso entereth the mouth goeth into the belly and is cast out into the drought? But those things which proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and they defile the man. For out of the heart proceedeth evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, theft, false witness, blasphemies. These are the things which defile a man. But to eat with unwashed hands defileth not a man. So he's talking about something that is in their tradition that says a man will be defiled by eating with unwashed hands. Right? And so a man is not, this is why there are the works of the law. Because they were saying in order for someone to stay ritually pure or ritually clean, they had to wash their hands before they ate anything. And so that is a dead work. It has nothing to do with your righteousness. It has nothing to do with justification. You are not justified by the deeds of the law or the works of the law. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. But let's keep going on. Let's get back to the video.
Nonsense. They can still carry that. You can still practice that custom of washing your hands. And there was actually a legalistic practice of washing their hands before they eat certain things, even when it came to what I'm saying. A person who decides, you know what, I think this was a good practice anyway, I'm gonna still do that. According to you, If they do that, they under the curse. That's just nonsense.
Well, no, see, that's what you do. That's your tactic.
No, that's what you. Listen, how's that my tactic?
Listen.
Why can't we just have a conversation? Why I gotta have tactic?
I said, I figured you out. I didn't remember I said that. He said, that's what you, I said, that's what you do. I done figured you out. Let's go.
No, you got to listen, please. You take one little thing that I'm saying out of you take it away from the overall picture, and you hone in on this one little statement, and you try to make it like I'm saying that if they all of it. I never said that. That's you saying that. I never said all of it was sin. That's not what I said.
See, and he just did it. He did that in my argument, but you also see that he did it with the actual text. And Elder Mike, I'm going to speak to you real quick, brother. I think that you do. That's just like when they say, well, show me one time where the apostles said, keep the Sabbath. And if they didn't say it, then that means you don't have to do it. Right? So they hone in on the one thing that they don't see in the text. Right? So they can throw that out. And they can say that now we don't have to do these things anymore. And so what they do is they confuse the works of the law, and from my position, which is the things the Pharisees prescribe, the commandments of men, because these are the lawgivers, the lawmakers in Israel that the Most High didn't put in place, that he's going to uproot, right? Isn't that what the Messiah just said? They confuse that with obeying what the Torah says do. And they say, well, outward works or performances such as keeping the Sabbath or keeping the feast day, these are outward works. That's what they say. But I contend that Paul's not talking about obeying what's written at all. I contend that he's talking about obeying these commandments of men that go against the commandments of the Most High. Or they judge you just like they try to judge the apostles for not washing their hands, or just like they try to judge the Messiah, right, the Mashiach, for healing on the Sabbath, because they have prescribed a way that you're supposed to keep the Sabbath. And he told the man to pick up his bed and walk, right? And so they came and they try to judge him concerning that, just like Paul talks about in Colossians, right? Let no man judge you in food or in drink or in holy days or in Sabbaths, right? Because they have a way that you're supposed to do these things. And if you don't do it the way they think that you're supposed to do it, or the way they command that you're supposed to do it, then to them, you are unclean, you are impure, you are sinning, you are transgressing the law or the tradition of the elders, the oral Torah, the oral traditions, what they think was passed down by word of mouth from Moshe or Moses all the way down to them. And there's so many different connections you can make to prove this fact. Like when they talk about don't be involved in endless genealogies. Why would Paul be telling Timothy that? Right? Because these guys, to prove that you're the teacher, that you're a good teacher, that's what they're getting into. But anyway, listen, I'm getting off track. So what I'm trying to say, we're gonna do a study on that, and we're gonna prove it out. But anyway, so they hone in on the one thing to negate the rest. To say, oh no, he can't be talking about that. That's how they come up with these two different laws. Like the Mashiach got a different law than his father. Do you understand? Like Yahweh and Yahushua got two different laws, but they're one. They're ichad. They're on the same accord. They're one accord. And how can two walk together unless they agree? Right? Anyway, let's keep going.
Okay, so we know one of the traditions was seeing the one of the, let me ask you a question.
They were sinning by trying to make
Hold on.
adult males that were Gentiles be circumcised in order to be saved. I know I heard you just say that it was after they were saved, but we know in Acts 15 it says that they had to be circumcised in order to be saved. We know it said that. So that is against Torah. That is against the actual written law.
Okay, can I say something?
You see, you notice he wants me to stop talking. You know, I get it.
Can I ask you a question?
All right, give him, take a break because I want Kobe to go. I'm gonna put a statement and
Go ahead. This question right here.
Oh, you want to ask?
Is everyone who does not continue in all things which are written in the book of the law? Plumber, are these the traditions of the elders?
That part right there. Just that part right there.
Hold on.
Can we read the part right before that, please? So we can keep it in context.
Okay, hold on.
Johnny Cochran ain't dead. He right here alive and well.
Paul says something and he validates it by the old canon of scripture.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I want you to listen, because here, at this point, Elder Mike is going to, it seems to me like he understands my position. In the beginning, he misrepresented my position, but now he's going to show that he understands my position. And so this is why I ask, is it by accident or is it on purpose? What is it? But let's listen, because we're kind of saying the same thing, except for at one point. The difference is what law are we talking about here?
Okay, hold on, bro. Hold on. Because I really want you to see this, but I already know you can't. I already told you.
You asked me a question.
Plumber, stop. Let me get it out, please.
You asked me a question already.
I didn't get it out yet. Plumber, stop. I didn't get it out yet.
Okay.
Goodness, we need moderator.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thank you, brother. No problem. It's all love. Verse 10. For as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse. So this is the statement. This is how he validates it. For it is written. Now he's quoting from Deuteronomy 27. Cursed is everyone who does not continue in all things which are written. You got to show me what them traditions of the elders was written back in Deuteronomy. In the book of the law to do them.
Now you see what he did there? I mean, he threw out a little subliminal, right? He reads it and then he stops in the middle and says, before he finishes, because it says, cursed is everyone who does not continue in all the things which are written in the book of the law. And then he stops and he says, you're going to have to show me back in Deuteronomy the tradition of the elders where it's written in there. But that's not my argument. And that's not even Paul. That's not even close to what Paul is even alluding to here. That's not my argument. But then watch, he's going to understand it. He's going to understand my argument in a second.
Here is the question, Plumber. Are you saying that when Moses was inspired to write Deuteronomy 27, and he told the people that if they don't continue in all the things that are written in the book of the law to do them, that they are cursed? Are you telling me that Moses was talking about the tradition of the elders?
Nothing oral there. There's nothing oral there in Jesus' name, Plumber. Tell me you don't see nothing oral there.
Now, see, I don't understand why they can't see. I'm really having a difficult time understanding why they don't see that. It says that for as many as are the works of the law are under a curse. Why? Because it is written. Curses everyone that does not continue in all the things which are written in the book of the law to do them. So I don't understand why they can't see that the works, if you are of the works of the law, then you obviously aren't doing them. That's what it tells you right there. It tells you that the ones who are cursed are the ones who don't do the law, right? it says, curses everyone who does not continue in all the things which are written in the book of the law to do them. So obviously, if the ones that don't do them are cursed, then that means obviously the works of the law doesn't mean doing the law. It can't mean that. I mean, really, honestly, just this is my argument. This is my position. Let's look at it really carefully. And I hope that you watch this, Elder Mike, because you got to see this. First, he tells you that everyone is under the works of the law, everyone that is after the works of the law or under the works are under a curse. And then he does exactly what you said. And he uses scripture from Deuteronomy to validate his statement. Think about that. He uses the law, right, to condemn people that are trying to keep the law. Is that what you're saying? Is that your argument? He uses the law to condemn people that do the law. Because you're saying that the works of the law means you're doing the law. You're doing what you guys call the cultural practices of the Mosaic law. Isn't that what you call it? So he's using the law to condemn keeping the law. That doesn't make any sense at all. Right? And you heard me ask him and he never answered. What does it mean? How do you get cursed? Where does the curse of the law come from? How does the law curse you, Elder Mike? He never answered. But it tells you right there how it curses you. It tells you it curses you if you don't do them. So obviously, those that are of the works of the law aren't doing it. I mean, it's that simple. It's common sense, right? But that's my argument. So I get a little upset at this point. I'm starting to get a little upset because I feel like, I mean, it's so simple that a 2-year-old could probably understand it. So I'm getting upset like, are y'all just misrepresenting me on purpose? And then I really get upset when I hear Mike switch back around and he represents my argument correctly. Listen.
Come on, Plumber. Yes or no? Tradition of the elders or the law of God? Which one, Plumber?
Of course, if you don't keep the law of God, you're cursed.
But what is Paul talking about when he says, for as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse? So now he's going to provide scripture to back up his claim. For it is written. You're trying to say that this is the tradition of the elders. But Paul is saying something different because Paul quotes Moses to validate his claim. I'm going to ask you one more time, Plumber.
Can I try to help out real quick?
No, after Plumber, you going right there on Kobe.
And now be quiet. This my
because you're going to let me answer this. You're going to let me answer my way. Because guess what?
I can answer the way.
Oh, boy, let's get Plumber way. Yo, Elder Mike, let's listen to Plumber way.
Don't try to put me, don't try to do that. That's what I'm saying. You like to hone in on one little thing.
Bro, this
is one big thing.
One little thing is the word of God. That's the words of God right there.
Listen,
so Plumber,
I agree with you.
One second. I'm gonna let you go. I'm not trying to stop you. I just want to make sure you understand the question as I'm articulating.
I understand exactly.
First, okay. Well, was Moses here? And is Paul referring to Moses' statement about the actual law of God, or is Paul referring to Moses' statement about the tradition of the elders? Which one? If you can answer that, and then you can explain it however you want, but just answer specifically. It's either the traditions of the elders or it's the law of God. So which one?
First say which one, Plumber, then you got your time to share it. Which one is this right here talking about specifically that's highlighted?
Yeah, Paul.
So here, Elder Mike wants me to answer a question that is a misrepresentation of my position. and he wants me to answer it with a yes or a no. And so I can't do that. Because if I answer yes, then I agree to his misrepresentation of my position. And if I answer no, then he's going to say, I got you. See, you know, but he's misrepresenting my position. So I can't answer it that way. And so I don't. That's why I didn't answer that way, because his question is incorrect as it concerns my position in the whole matter.
Paul quoted the law of God.
Okay, very good.
What?
So Paul was talking, all this is about the law of God then. Am I right?
No,
yes or no?
No, because I said he quoted the law of God.
Oh my God. All right,
And he
man, go ahead.
quoted
Now, I want you to notice he highlighted verse 10. He highlighted from the very beginning, for as many as of the works of the law are under a curse. And he said, all this is about the law. All of this is about the law. As if that first half was written in the Old Testament as well, but it's not. It's not there. So I got to tell him, he quoted, no, it's not all concerning the law. He quoted the law. But he quoted the law in the second half of the verse, not in the first half. Right? Let's keep going.
the law of God
I'm done.
concerning the works of the law.
What?
Am I right? Am I right? Did he not quote the law of God to answer about the works of the law? Did he not?
And the works of the law, the tradition of the Pharisees.
No, they're synonymous, brother. That's why the question is
No,
absolute.
See that? He doesn't understand. And this is by accident, but this is probably because of his training, because they're most of us grew up in the church, and we know that they preach that we don't have to do those things that are written in that Old Testament. We don't have to follow that law. And so he has to then try to interpret the letters, the scriptures, the words from that worldview, from that point of view. And that's why he thinks that the works of the law are synonymous with the law. That's why he thinks that. And he just said that. But it shows you right here in the context of verse 10 that the works of the law cannot be synonymous with the law itself, because he is saying that the curse comes from not doing the law, and the works of the law put you under the curse. So the law can't be synonymous with the works of the law. They have to be opposed to one another, because they were synonymous, then the law wouldn't condemn the works of the law. It would confirm and affirm the works of the law. But that's not what it's doing here. It's condemning the works of the law. It's putting the works of the law under a curse. And how do you get the curse? By not continuing in all the things which are written in the book of the law to do them. That's how you get the curse. By not doing them, by not continuing to do them. That's how you get the curse. When you stop doing them. The law blesses, right? Matter of fact, let's go look at that scripture too. I'm sorry, I'm taking a lot of time here, but let's go check out that scripture too. Let's go check that out real quick. So that's Deuteronomy, right? Let me get up here. My thing moving slow. Let me give it a second. There we go. Deuteronomy 30, I believe it is. Yeah, 30. Let's go to Deuteronomy 30. Scroll down here. I think it's around verse 15 or something like that. Yeah. So Deuteronomy verse 15, we'll start there. Let's move it up. See, I have set before you this day life and good, and death and evil. And that I command thee this day to love Yahweh thy Elohim, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that thou mayest live and multiply. And Yahweh thy Elohim shall bless thee in the land whither thou goest to possess it. But if thine heart turn away, so that thou wilt not hear, but shall be drawn away and worship other Elohims and serve them, I denounce unto this day that ye shall surely perish, that ye shall not prolong your days upon the land whither thou passest over Jordan to go and possess it. Now listen to this. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live, that thou mayest love Yahweh the Elohim, and that thou mayest obey his voice, and that thou mayest cleave unto him. For he is thy life, and the strength of thy day, and the length of thy days, that thou mayest dwell in the land which Yahweh sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them. So he said, today I call heaven and earth to record against you, that I set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. So how do you live? How do you get the blessing? He said, if you hear and do. Isn't that what it said? Look. And that I command thee this day to love Yahweh Elohim and walk in all his ways and keep his commandments, his statutes, and judgments. That's how you get it. But then it says, how do you get the curse? How do you get death? How do you get evil? Right? He says, but if thine heart turn away, so that thou will not hear, that thou will not shema, hear and do, hear and obey, but that you be drawn away and worship other Elohims and serve them. He says, I denounce to you this day that ye shall surely perish. You will have death and curses and evil. That's what the law says, how you get the curse, right? That's what it says. So let's keep going. Let's go back to the video.
I want to see if that's what Plumber, because he's talking slow. Let it out. We all ears.
Now listen to Bree. He's going to agree with me.
All right, Mike. Mike, we got to put Mike out. We got to put Bella out. Get your mind right, Mike. Get your mind right.
He says, for as many as are of the works of the law are under a curse. Why? Why? Because it is written, cursed is everyone that does not continue in all the things which are written in the book of the law to do them. So he used the Torah, the actual law, to tell you that the works of the law put you under a curse.
It can't be synonymous.
And the curse comes from what? Not doing, not continuing in all of the things that are written in the book of the law. Right?
Yeah, so far you good, but I know something.
No.
You hear that? Berean said, yeah. Berean said, yeah. He agreed with that. He understood the plain reading of the text. But what Elder Mike said, no, Berean. No. That's what Elder Mike said. But listen.
This brother,
I'm not done.
Well, hold on, no, let it go, bro.
So what that means is the works of the law isn't doing the law. The works of the law is obviously breaking the law. That's what that means.
I don't know what I'm talking about. Hold on a minute, Mike. Come on, Kobe. Come on, hold on a minute, Ella. I don't know what he's talking about. Serpent Chatter, I don't know what you're talking about. Go ahead, Kobe. I don't know what
the works of the law are against the law, and they bring you a curse. Then how can doing what the law says bring you a curse? Because that's not what the law says. If you do it, you're going to be blessed. If you don't do it, you're going to be cursed. So if you got the curse, that means you ain't doing it. It's that simple. It ain't hard. It's easy to understand.
Now, I have to admit, I got a little frustrated right there. I'm not a good teacher. You know what I mean? I'm a plumber, and I have helpers that, you know, and I try to train guys, and I'm not that, you know, because some things I'm like, man, it's not hard. You know, especially on the job, we digging up a sewer line or something, and the guy has to jump down in there with the shovel, and he acting like he don't even know how to work a shovel. And I get frustrated real quick. Hold on, man, you don't know how to work and I have to jump down there and do it for him. Here, let me show you how I want it dug, man, with this shovel. Let me show you how to pick up some dirt with the shovel. You know, because I'm really like, are you serious? I mean, that's really what's on my mind. Did you just get in that hole and pretend like you don't know how to dig with a shovel? Like you don't know how to pick up some dirt with a shovel? That's really what be going through my head when I do that. And that's really what's going through my head right now. You really don't see that? You really don't see that? That if you're cursed because you don't continue to do what's written in the law, then that means that the works of the law can't be doing what the law says. It got to be not doing it. You really can't see that. And so I got a little frustrated, and I got a little, little uptight right there. And I spoke a little, but I wasn't mad at them. I was just frustrated. Like, are you serious? You can't see that if you're under the curse for doing the works of the law, and if you're cursed because you don't do the law, that doing the works of the law is not the same thing as doing the law? It's that simple. It's right there in your face. I mean, I'm leaving it on the screen too and talking for a long time, so you can read it 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 times if you want to, and you still won't come up with the same. You got to come up with this conclusion because he uses the word for. What is for? It's a conjunction, right? It means because. So why is he saying because? He's telling you why those that are under the works of the law, those that are of the works of the law are under a curse. That's why he says for, because. He's telling you why they're under the curse. Because it is written. Where is it written at? It's written in the law, right? It's written in the book of the law. Curses everyone that does not continue in all the things which are written in the book of the law. To what? To do them. This is why those that are of the works of the law are under a curse, because they do not continue to do the things which are written in the book of the law. It's that simple. And so I got a little frustrated, and but let's keep going.
What's so hard to understand about that?
Because
you
think it's making more sense now. But
no, I don't know, yo. Hold on, Elder. Hold on, both of y'all. Come on, Kobe. Come to the microphone. I just gotta pray for more wisdom, because I'm telling. Type of one if y'all understand what Plumber's saying, it make plain sense to y'all. Type of one.
And the reason why I think they don't understand is not because of what I'm saying. It's because Elder Mike already set the precedents from the beginning. I didn't play from the beginning when he first came on and started reading from Galatians 3, verse 1. And he said, who has bewitched you? And he read that, and he said, and a lot of these guys are bewitched. And then he said, that word bewitched, it refers to being under a spell, right? And it can mean that, but it also can just mean who has deceived you, who has lied to you, right? And I mean, we can look that up, but I'm not going to right now. But so he already set the precedent when he came in. He already trained their mind a certain way. He started out with saying that addressing me. And he started reading from there, talking about, oh, foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you? And then he goes on to talk about what that word bewitched means. And then he says that these guys, referring to me and people like me, are bewitched. We're under a spell. He actually said that we're under a spell. I can go back to that area. I can go back to that part. But so the audience he's already setting up his argument. right? Instead of let's look at the scripture plainly. Let's get an understanding together. That's not what he's doing. He's sending out a message, and that was his message from the beginning. And then he comes and he misrepresents my entire position. And he says that my position is that anybody who violates the traditions of the elders is under a curse. And that's a lie. And so from there, we get what? We get confusion. And I'm not saying he's lying on purpose, but the position that he says I hold, that's just not the truth. Because that's not my position. My position is anyone who does, not who violates the traditions of the elders, but people who hold to those traditions, and more specifically, in this instance, he's talking about circumcision, right? He's talking about circumcision. And there are other things, like the Messiah said, and you wash the outside of your cups, and many other traditions that you hold to. Or like the washing of hands, it's a dead work. It means nothing. And then they try to judge you by it. Right? So that's my actual position. Not that if you violate them, you're under a curse, but that if you adhere to them, you are under the curse. That's my actual position. So he came in here misrepresenting my position, basically not telling the truth about my position, but we find out later on that he actually understands my position. So I'm like, what? He understands it. So therefore, there's the confusion. That's why, and so guess what? Berean understood what I said right there. He actually agreed with it until Elder Mike said, no. This brother's drowning. And then Berean said, well, I don't know. Maybe I need to go back to school or whatever he said. I'm a little slow, So it wasn't that Berean didn't understand it. It's that because Elder Mike and his knowledge, he's very knowledgeable, right? And he's an elder in, as Berean was saying, the Lord's church, right? That automatically they're going to roll with him. They're going to roll with him. That's what happened right there. Berean said, I understood. He said, yeah. I said, do you understand? He said, yes. You sounding good, right? And then, oh, no. And then Berean changed his position towards my explanation of the verse. That's what happened. And that's what's happening in the crowd too. So who's bewitched? And I'm not saying you bewitched, Brother Berean. I'm not saying that at all. But that's how he started out his whole presentation against me, was that we were under a spell. We've been bewitched, and that's why we follow this law, this Torah. But really, we see that his words go out and they bewitch the people. They put the people under the spell. Berean saw what I said. He saw it. He agreed with it. Elder Mike said, no. And he changed his position. Right? Let's play it again. I'm going to play it again for you so we can hear that clear as day.
In the book of the law to do this. So he used the Torah, the actual law, to tell you that the works of the law put you under a curse. And the curse comes from what? Not continuing in all of the things that are written in the book of the law. Right?
Yeah, so far you good, but I know.
No. Hold on, Berean.
See, he said, yeah, so far you good, but, and then I'm like, no, Berean.
No. So this brother drowned.
I'm not done.
Hold on, no, let it go, bro.
What that means is the works of the law isn't doing the law. The works of the law is obviously breaking the law. That's what that means.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Now he don't know what I'm talking about. He agreed with me just a second ago, and all I'm doing is reiterating what I just said. And now he don't know what I'm talking about. And Berean good people to me. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got no problem with Berean. You know what I'm saying? But I understand that, he's over there training. He's training these Christians. You know what I'm saying? He's training the Christian brothers and sisters, how to defend the gospel. I get it. And, I learned a lot from Berean's channel as well. You know what I mean? I learned a whole lot from Berean's channel. You know what I mean? They've even changed some of my views and how I view some things in scripture. You understand? The Christian side. So I appreciate what Berean's doing over there. But we got to be honest here. You understand? Let's keep rolling.
Hold on a minute, Mike. Come on, Kobe. Come on, hold on a minute, Elder. I don't know what he's talking about. Fervent Chatter, I don't know what he's talking about.
He don't know what I'm talking about now.
Kobe, I don't know what
works of the law.
He disagrees.
The law, and they bring you a curse. Then how can doing what the law says bring you a curse? Because that's not what the law. The law says if you do it, you're gonna be blessed. If you don't do it, you're gonna be cursed. So if you got the curse, that means you ain't doing it. It's that simple. It ain't hard. It's easy to understand. What's so hard to understand about that?
See, now there's where I get a little upset because, man, you just agree with me, and then Elder Mike say no, Berean, and now you done changed your attitude towards it. Now you don't understand what I'm saying. Now I sound confusing. But is the confusion coming from me? Is it coming from the text? Where's the confusion coming, or is it coming from the misrepresentation of what I'm saying?
You think it's making more sense now? But
No, I don't know, yo. Hold on, Elder. Hold on, both of y'all. Come on, Kobe. Come to the microphone. I just gotta pray for more wisdom because I'm telling. Type of one if y'all understand what Plumber's saying. It make plain sense to y'all. Type of one. Type of two if y'all slow like me. Go ahead, Kobe. I'm muting myself, and then Elder Mike after you. I'm really honestly in my heart. No. Hold on, Plumber. Go ahead, Semi-Cole.
Yeah, so what's going on with all y'all? Man, I hear what both of y'all are saying, and y'all aren't saying the same things, but coming to the same conclusion. I think when Elder Mike, when he's saying the works of the law, it is, what's in the Torah, the 613, or however you want to say it, but when it's talking about the works of the law, he keeps saying the law of the elders or something along those lines, when I don't think that's exactly what Paul was saying, nor do I think that's exactly what Plummer's saying, and not the oral law either, because you can't find that in the Torah, right? That was a later thing, and that's what Elder Mike's always harping on. But I don't think it's any oral law. What I think Paul is speaking on here is the works of the law that show your outward expression that you are an Israelite, and that's what makes you different from everybody else. And because of that, you are the only one entitled to salvation. So it's a different way of looking at this. So when you look at circumcision, where's it at? I had all this written down. I was just reading on it the other day. It has like circumcision, eating kosher, keeping the Sabbath, things like that. Those were outward signs that showed everybody else that you were part of this covenant that only they were part of and no one else was.
And that's how I started out this. That's what they think. I disagree with that. Now, Kobe, my dude, man. I got mad love for Kobe. He's helped me out in this walk, and that's real talk. And he's been man enough to admit when he's been wrong. He's been man enough to stand on truth according to the way that he sees it. And I agree with Kobe in many aspects. But here, I kind of disagree with him as far as doing those things that are written, commanded by the Most High to do, as those just being a cultural thing. But anyway, that's a whole nother argument. But Kobe understands my argument. You hear what he's saying. He understands my position.
What it seems to be happening, and these are from scholarly works, right? Books and stuff. I'm just I just happen to be reading this, and it goes along with what Plummer's saying. So I'm just reading this is one by Kent Ginger, right? He wrote a book called The New Perspective on Paul, an Introduction. Now, what Elder Mike is saying is what the author of this book says that most people do. And that says if they, where was it? I wrote this down. It says that when people refer to the works of the law as being, what was it? Oh my gosh, I lost it. It says when those who talk about the works of the law in terms of salvation, that's like an old way of thinking about it. Not too many people look at it in that way anymore. What they kind of look at keeping the law was how they used to in the Old Testament. How do you say it? Like it was more to just be in a right standing with God, even though they knew they were going to mess up and were going to require faith. It's just it was later on changed to.
He's talking about justification, right? And by the deeds of the law, no man shall be justified. That's right standing, right? That's what he's talking about. That's what Kobe's talking about. You know, these guys, they have a decent argument. They have a decent position. The guy he's reading it from, N.T. Wright, E.P. Saunders, all them people, but they do not separate. This is the problem I have with those guys. They do not separate, right, oral law or rabbinical law from written law, written Torah, what is written in the Old Testament, what they say Moses wrote down. They don't separate the two. And so it's hard when they don't separate it, you're going to come up with keeping the Sabbath and eating kosher, and you're going to come up with these arguments. You understand? But just like last night, the Berean had a Jewish guy on his channel, and that's how he was talking. Y'all don't keep the Sabbath. I mean, y'all don't keep the feast days on the right day, and you know you don't eat kosher. You might as well be you might as well be eating pig, even though we're not eating pig. You might as well be eating pig. And so I got on there and I asked him why. He said because it wasn't kosher. And so I said, well, what made it not kosher? And he said it wasn't slaughtered according to the Torah. And I said, what do you mean it wasn't slaughtered? How do you do it specifically? How do you do it according to Torah? He said, and he got to talking about how you put the knife at a certain angle on the throat and you hang them upside down and then you pour salt on. None of that's in the Torah. But guess where it is at? It's in their oral tradition, which guess what? They call Torah. So, and when I tried to separate the two with him, right there with him, he refused. He refused to let go of it. He refused to say, okay, well, there's the tradition and then there's the written Torah. He refused. He couldn't do it because this is how their mind is trained. And I keep saying this on Berean's channel. Whenever you're talking to a Jew, an Orthodox Jew or rabbi or any of those people, that's how they view the law. The law of Moses is just not what was written in the 66, written in Numbers, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Exodus. That's not it. In their mind, it's that with what the rabbis say. And the guy proved it last night on Berean's channel when I was questioning him. He couldn't separate it. He was telling us that even though we're keeping a feast day and we're not eating pork, right? But we might as well be eating pig because guess what? It's not slaughtered the way the rabbis say slaughter it. That's the works of the law. That's what I'm trying to say. That is the works of the law. He told us we weren't keeping the feast days right. Why? Because we didn't do it on the days that the rabbis say do it. And so I said to him, well, don't you guys do it on 2 days? Don't you keep Passover twice? 2 days, not just one? He said, yes. But the Bible, and I said, well, the Bible don't say do 2 days, it say 1 day. But it's the rabbis that have them do it an extra day. Why? Because people in other countries might lose track of the time and they might end up not keeping the Passover on the correct day. So they say, do it the next day. But that ain't even prescribed by Torah. Torah says if you're in a far place and you can't make it for Passover on that day, right? It says then do it on the 15th day of the next month. But they do it two consecutive days. So you see how that nullifies or negates what is actually written in the book? The book says if you're on a far journey and you can't get back to Jerusalem in time to keep Passover. You can't get back to the place where he puts his name to keep Passover on the day prescribed than you are to do it on the 15th day of the second month. But they do it 2 consecutive days for that very reason that it says do it on the second month in Torah. So that's the works of the law. So even if they're doing it on the right day, they still do it again on the next day, twice. How are you gonna, and as a believer, Mashiach, how are you gonna crucify Mashiach twice? Huh? In essence, as a believer of Mashiach, that's what they're doing. He is the Passover lamb. So how are you gonna crucify Mashiach twice? You understand what I'm saying, what I'm getting at? Not that we actually sacrifice a lamb or we actually put Mashiach back on the cross beam every time we celebrate Passover. That's not the point. But do you understand? But anyway, let's keep rolling.
Kind of show that these works of the law were a bad thing, right? And I'm not saying I keep the law, so don't think I'm coming at it from that and like I'm trying to justify myself. I'm just saying there are views that are looking at Paul in a different way and not saying when he says, like here, for example, if you change or not change, I'm not trying to change the Bible, but Elder Mike is saying that for as many are as under the works of the law or the works of the elders, they're the ones that are under a curse, for it is written.
Now, you hear that? That's my argument, right? I'm going to just put it back just a hair so we can catch all of it. But that's my argument. But he attributes that argument or that position to Elder Mike because there's so much confusion going on right now. And the confusion is because Elder Mike came in and misrepresented my position. That's the confusion. Misrepresented my position from the very beginning.
What they kind of look at keeping the law was how they used to in the Old Testament. How do you say it? Like it was more to just be in a right standing with God, even though they knew they were going to mess up and were going to require faith. It's just it was later on changed to kind of show that these works of the law were a bad thing, right? And I'm not saying I keep the law, so don't think I'm coming at it from that and like I'm trying to justify myself. I'm just saying there are views that are looking at Paul in a different way and not saying when he says, like here, for example, if you change or not change, I'm not trying to change the Bible, but Elder Mike is saying that for as many are as under the works of the law or the works of the elders, they're the ones that are under a curse, for it is written, cursed everyone who does not continue in all the things which are written in the book of the law to do them. But that no one is justified by the words of the law or the law of the elders in the sight of God. It's evident for the just shall live by faith, yet the law is not of faith. So what?
That's my argument. That's not Elder Mike's argument. That's my position. That's not Elder Mike's position. That's what I'm saying. And Covey understands it perfectly, but he keeps attributing it to Elder Mike because now the confusion has entered in the room. The spirit of confusion has entered into the conversation. It came from the very beginning through the misrepresentation of my position. That's what's happened here.
It seems that Elder Mike is trying to say is that these are the laws written in stone that is for Israel only, and we can know them by that, and they have to do it. The way they're looking at it now is just we're looking at it a little bit different, what these works of the law actually are. And I think both of y'all are kind of so mad at each other right now. You're saying the same thing in different terms. And we just got to define what each one of us means so we can argue the right thing, because it seems y'all are saying kind of the same thing, just in a different way.
No, not to me. Not to me. You come in. Don't let NT Wright.
I think I hear. I like NT Wright. I'm an NT Wright.
I don't like him that much. Go ahead.
No, but no, I like. I mean, but here's what I think I understand what Kobe's saying, but I don't know if I agree with the fact that that's what Plummer and I are doing. But I think I do get where he's coming from. No, here's what's happening. The plumber wants to make the things that Christ fulfilled and died for, and the only things that we don't have to continue in are those traditions of the elders. So when it comes to beard shaving, fringing.
Now you hear that? He understands my argument. He understands my position. So how did that happen? How did he not understand it at one point, and now he understands it? And this whole time, misrepresented all the way until this point, except for he's wrong. What he's saying, what I'm trying to do, and that's another problem. Maybe that's why he doesn't understand it, because he's always trying to figure out what it is we're trying to do or what we're trying to say, and so that way he can defend against it, because he's an urban apologist, right? So he can defend against it instead of listen to it, understand it, and then build your argument. Because now he's talking outside of the argument. He's talking about fringes and beards at this point. And that didn't have anything to do with what was being said.
Is when it comes to dietary laws, feast days, when it comes to high moon days, high holy days, those things were not done away with. Christians today should actually still be practicing these things to show our gratitude to God as a part of our service. Plumber is wrong. We are not under the Mosaic law. And that's all I'm saying here, right? So the works of the law are not a bad thing. But the problem with the works of the law is that we violated the works of the law. But as long as you are making the law, which law? The laws written in this book, which is what Paul is saying. As long as we're making those things a requirement for salvation and mandatory under the Mosaic law principle, we are under the curse.
See that? He added all that commentary. It doesn't say any of that. So what he's doing is he is imposing. And see, I tried not to, they corner me with the elders work, thing, right? That was there because, like I said, Elder Mike and I have talked about this on more than one occasion. So he brought this whole works of the elders thing up, not me, right? And I even tried to avoid even saying it. I just wanted to stick with the argument that the plain reading of the text says that whatever the works of the law are, it's not the same as doing what the law says. And then, so you hear Elder Mike right here kind of saying the same thing, because that's what the scripture says. He really can't get around it. However, he wants to define the works of the law for us and tell us that it has to do with fringes and beards and keeping Sabbaths. And he's saying that all these things are works of the law. So, but he kind of gets it, what I'm saying. But just a minute ago, I was drowned and I was underwater. No. But he's saying that their argument is that you shouldn't even be trying to keep or do anything that is written in the book of the law, because you can't keep it. And since you can't keep it, Paul is telling you that you're going to be under a curse, so you better not even try to do it. That's their argument. And if I'm misrepresenting that, please let me know, because I will recant that statement.
Period. You're either under the law or you're led by the Spirit. And Paul said that clearly right here in Galatians chapter.
Now, listen to what he just said. You're either under the law or you're led by the Spirit. And now he's going to take us to that portion of Galatians.
Number 5. I say, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lusts of the flesh.
Elder, how was this what you're doing, hating the law? Is what you're saying hating the law by showing what Paul is saying? Are you hating the law?
No, we're actually loving the law. This is how we actually, this is the love. This is our love for the law, because 2 things. One, we understand that Christ himself became the sacrifice for our sins because we were all found violating.
Yeah, we love the law so much that we're not even going to attempt to do anything. We love it so much. This is our love for it that we tell one another we ain't got to do none of that. That's crazy to me. But anyway.
Of the law. Right? By doing that, he ended that covenant. So in other words, that marriage died with the death of Christ. And so we don't have to follow those things as such. Under the new covenant, it doesn't mean we're lawless, though, because if we walk in the spirit, we won't fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh, and they're contrary one to another.
What laws will change before you jump?
Watch this, verse 18, though. Last verse, though, real quick. If you are led by the spirit, you're not under the law. It's one or the other. So you don't give me spirit and law, not because what Paul is referring to here is the Torah. He's referring to that.
I remember he said that. I want you to remember he said that. But if you're led by the Spirit, you're not under the law. And what he's talking about we're not under is Torah. I want you to remember that.
You can't be led by the Spirit and still say we're required to keep the Torah, the Mosaic law.
So obviously he understands, or his understanding is, and his position on this text, verse 18, is that if you are led by the Spirit, you cannot be practicing the Torah. He said, don't give me both. Isn't that what he said? Don't give me spirit and law. If you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the Torah. So let's keep going.
Hold on for a second,
I'm not trying to interrupt him. I'm not trying to I just want him to pull, since he got his logos up. How about he look up that word under right there? Let's look that up. Let's find out what that really means. You're not under the law. Let's find out what it really means.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. We go to this.
And do it in your NIDA. Put it in a NIDA or whatever. What is it called? How do you pronounce it? Laonida?
I got you, bro. It's Laonida, right? I'm glad you. I appreciate you checking out the video. No problem. Thank you. All right, but here's what I want you to understand about the Greek language, right? Right. So
now he's about to go because he thinks this is what, because we've had this discussion where it says you are not under the law. We had a discussion, and it is my position here. I want to explain it to you that you see here that the word "the" there's no number, no Greek number for it, no Strong's number for it, right? And they got an arrow under it that is not actually in the text explicitly, right? So my position is that not all the time, but oftentimes when we see that, what it really says is under law. It doesn't say under the law. So when that is a definite article. And if it was in there, written in the text explicitly, it would say under ho or something like that. I think the word is ho. The definite article, the is ho, right? And it would say that. So it would be under ho, right? Numas, whatever. So we've had this discussion. Elder Mike and I have had this discussion. And my position is that not every time, but sometimes when we read where Paul says under the law, or it even works for the works of the law, it doesn't actually say works of the law explicitly. What it says is works of law. And here it says under law. And so my position to Elder Mike was that sometimes when it does that, it's not talking about Torah. It's talking about Jewish law. Or sometimes it might be talking about Roman law. But not every time that we read the word law or the law is it talking about biblical law, written Torah. Right? And so he's about to try, right here in the beginning, he's about to try to attack that because he thinks that's where I'm going. So that's how I know that he's not really trying to hear what I'm saying. He's just trying to defend. He's trying to defeat my argument before I get started. That's why he started the whole thing with who has bewitched you, and that these guys have been bewitched. These guys are under a spell. You understand? So he's trying to direct everybody into understanding it the way he understands it or sees it.
The word "the" isn't here, right? So it's under law, right? You are not under law, right? And so let's go to the word "under" in Lower Night, like you asked, right? Let me make this bigger if I can.
He thinks that's my argument. That's why he went there, because it's unnecessary.
All right, a marker of controlling person, institution, or power. What's the problem? Under the control, under the obligation. What's the problem?
Keep reading.
But the scripture includes all things under power of sin, Galatians 3:22, in order that he may redeem those who are under the law. Notice that's in capital L. So Lower Night also agrees with me that he's not talking about the tradition of the elders, he's talking about the law. That's why he capitalized.
Yeah.
Under obligation to abide by the regulations of the law.
Now you see, he said, Laonida agrees with me that it's talking about the law and not the tradition of the elders. That's why he did that whole thing in the beginning with the word "the" not being there, because that was my argument. Like I said, oftentimes when you see that, he's actually talking about the tradition of the elders or Jewish law and not necessarily Torah. So he's already, before we even get into the thing, he's already attacking what he thinks I'm about to say in this instance. Trying to cut me off at the pass, so to speak.
Capital law, it is generally a mistake to render literally the expression "taos uponaman," as in Galatians 4:5, because those who are under the law may simply mean people who act illegally.
Okay,
what are you talking
stop
about?
right there.
I'm stopping.
It says
it's
it's
really
generally,
so I'm trying to understand.
It is generally a mistake to render literally the expression "those who are under the law," as in Galatians 4:5, because those who are under the law may simply mean people who act illegally. So now, if you go back to the verses that you was reading, we can prove we can prove that out, that those who are under the law are those who are acting illegally in that verse we was just reading in Galatians.
So what I want him to do here is I want him to go back to the verse he was reading about those in the spirit are not, those after the spirit are not under the law, right? Because what it's going to do is where it says those who are under the law may simply mean people who act illegally. The verse is going to prove that out. We're going to see that context in Paul's writing. We're going to see that context. I know he read all them other things up there. We're going to see this context in the writing. So he wants to, now he's going to do this again. He's going to hone in on this Galatians 5:4 and say that only is talking about Galatians 4:5. I'm sorry, 4:5. That's what he's going to say. But even after we do it on here, I'm going to show you again
about fulfilling the flesh. No,
I think you're misunderstanding this. I think you're misunderstanding this.
No, we can prove it.
Hold on, brother.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
No, you don't, because I haven't said it.
But if we read it,
can I just explain
that?
We just read
you're
this.
confused about what you're seeing right here. Hold on a second, Plumber. He said you're confused about.
Yes, you just confuse yourself. Paul is speaking to one particular verse here. I mean, Paul, right? But anyway, it is generally a mistake to render literally the expression "taos uponaman," as in Galatians 4:5, because those who are under the law, still in caps, may simply mean people who act illegally. What does that mean, brother?
Now he asked me, what does it mean? And he's going to agree with me again. So listen.
To act illegally means to be a breaker of the law.
See that? He agrees with me. That's what I'm saying here. Right? To act illegally means to be a breaker of the law. And so we're going to see that those who are under the law are simply breakers of the law in the context of what he's reading in Galatians.
Exactly.
It's
So
not
let's go back and read it. Let's go back and read
Okay.
where you was reading that.
I'm gonna
and
flow
let's
with
find out
you.
who's under the law.
What? What
Yeah,
do you
go.
mean find out who's under the law?
Yeah, we're gonna find out what he's talking about when he says under the law here. Right? You just read it, right?
No. Hold on. I'm not gonna let you do that because Plumber, you're misunderstanding it. He didn't tell you to go back to see who's under the law. He's talking about the way that word is expressed in the Greek. Right?
I'm telling you, my reason for saying that is because it is being expressed that exact same way in the verses you was just reading. That's why I'm telling you that.
Bro, it cuts you either way. It doesn't matter.
So, but you just said if you
I'm
had
gonna
to
let you
legally
explain.
break.
How does it cut me either way? How does it cut me either way? It doesn't matter. Because what he was trying to do was say that it's talking specifically about Galatians 4:5. That's what he went on. I think he says it in there somewhere, but that's what he was getting at.
Breaking the law.
Illegally because you have broken the law, brother. You broken the law of Moses. Paul isn't in here talking about the fact that you jaywalked when the Romans said don't. You tell me what to read, bro. Because
now, see, he's kind of misunderstanding where I'm going again. And I understand. Maybe, you know, as we're going through this, I don't really think that this is purposefully done. I think that because they've trained themselves to view the text in a certain way that it's hard for them to see it the way it's being presented right now.
I don't know where you're going.
Go back
I
up
don't know
to
what
say
you
for
mean.
the fruits.
Right now, it's not making any
start
sense.
at the lust of the flesh. Is the fruits of the spirit
So,
before
Galatians
after the
chapter
lust of the
5?
flesh?
After.
Okay, let's
Here's the
start
fruit
at
of the spirit.
let's start at those, you know, in the lust of the flesh. Let's start there. All right.
Now the works of the flesh are evident.
Hold on, no, go to the verse before that. We want to read that part.
But
too,
if
right?
you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law.
Now think about what it's saying. If you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. And then after we get through, I'm going to tell you the whole argument here.
Okay, yep. If you're led by the Spirit, you're not under the law. Now, the works of the flesh are evident, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, sorcery, hatred, contentions, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish and.
Now, I want you to notice every time, excuse me, every word I read, he makes some kind of noise. What's that for? He talked with Covey and they read, and I stayed quiet for the longest. So I'm just trying to understand why he's doing that.
Ambitions, dissensions, heresy, envy, murders, drunkenness, revelries, and the like. Of which I tell you beforehand, just as I also told you in time past, that those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. Now check this out. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against, let me say that word again, against such there is no law. So, what? Against the fruits of the Spirit, there is no law. So, that's why the fruits of the Spirit.
He said, what? As if he couldn't understand what I was getting at. He said, what? Now, listen to this.
Are under the law, right? So what does that mean? That means the works of the flesh are under the law, doesn't it?
That's absolute nonsense.
No, it ain't. No. Go back and read it again.
Okay, let me get a chance. Let me get a shot at this.
First of all, and I want everybody tell me if y'all understood what the plumber just said, and it makes perfect sense to you. Y'all clearly understand.
Watch this.
Type of one.
If you are led by the Spirit, you're not under the law.
Watch this. Watch this switch up. Watch this bait and switch. That's what we're about to watch. He said, watch this. He's about to try to do the bait and switch on us. Watch this.
Now, what he's doing here is about to help us identify whether or not a person is being led by the Spirit or by the flesh. The works of the flesh are evident. So when people carry out these things, now these things, Christians shouldn't walk like this, is what Paul is saying here. Because don't tell me you're walking by the Spirit if you're still in adultery, if you're still in fornication, if you're still in unclean. Notice this Sabbath keeping isn't in here. Notice fringe.
See, now he wants to turn it back to what I told you. He wants to try to talk about Sabbath keeping in here and fringes. Of course not. These things that it's talking about is breaking the law. So why would Sabbath keeping be in there? Why would wearing fringes even be in there? But you see what he said, watch this. And now he's trying to put everybody under the spell and make them and forget what I'm saying. Let's show you what he's not saying. That's what he's doing right here. Forget what he's saying and let's show you what he's not saying. He's attacking an argument that I'm not even providing, right? And my whole point was what? I reiterated against. What does against mean? I asked the question, he never answered. Let's keep going.
Wearing isn't in here. Notice nothing in here about diet. Nothing in here. So these are the things that are sinful for the believer. And if you're not doing these things, then you should be doing these things. Nothing in here about the Shabbat. Nothing in here about the feast days.
Elder Mike, real quick, it seems interesting that the things that you pointed out about not the feast days, not the diet, not the fringe, not the beer, not all that stuff, that's what I was saying, that were sort of outward showings of your heritage. They're all things that showed other people that I'm an Israelite, so I'm different and I'm special and I'm the only one that can be saved. That's the difference between these works of the law and the ones that you're exactly the ones that you're speaking on.
Now, the reason why I disagree with Kobe there is because we know that when they came into the land, and even we know that they were commanded to do all the same things Israel did. We know they were commanded to do it even said that if an Israelite eats an animal that dieth of itself, that he is unclean until evening, and he must take a bath and he must wash his clothes. And it says this law is for the Israelite as well as the Gentile or the stranger that dwelleth among them, that sojourn among them. So he is unclean just like the Israelite is unclean. And that's you can put that under the category of dietary, right? If they eat of an animal that dieth of itself. And I know they're going to give you the argument that it says, well, if the Gentiles had to do it, then why did it say that you could sell the animal that died of itself, you could sell that meat to the Gentiles, right? I've heard that argument. But why would that verse that I just mentioned tell you that a Gentile that sojourns among them is unclean and must bathe himself and take a bath if he eats it, just like an Israelite? But then in another verse, it tells you it's okay to give it to him. Why would it tell you that? Because obviously the stranger that dwells among them or sojourns with them is a different person or different kind of stranger that they're selling this meat to, this unclean meat to. They're obviously not the same type of gear, right? Because that would be contradictory. So my position on that is that the strangers that they're allowed to sell the meat to aren't strangers that sojourn with them. But we see this in the book of Esther and different places, right, where the strangers would come in and they would sell things to the Israelites. So they had an open market in the marketplace. And so in the marketplace, we also would know that maybe strangers that don't dwell amongst them, but that are outsiders to them, right, would come in and trade and buy things in the marketplace. So give them the meat of the animal that dieth of itself. But the ones that dwell among you, there's one law for them, just like there is for the Israelite. So that's why I disagree with that position, because they don't want to separate. They want to make these things that were actually written that came from the mouth of Yah, and they want to make them just something cultural, or they want to make it Jewish culture or Israelite culture. But the truth of the matter is that the Gentiles that weren't Israelites, that weren't Jews, that weren't even circumcised, still had to participate in these very things. They kept all the feasts. They kept the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? They kept Shavuot. They kept Sukkot. They participated in the red heifer and the ashes of purity. You understand? They did all these things. So it can't just be Israelite culture. I'm going to call it, it's biblical culture. It's Yah's culture. So that's why I disagree with that argument. And that's my reason for why I disagree with that position that N.T. Wright and E.P. Saunders and all these Gentile Christians adhere to. But of course they would adhere to it. Of course they would look at it this way, because they want to still eat their pork. They don't want to keep the Sabbath. And even if they do, you understand, they want to see, because they don't see themselves as Israelites or Jews. So therefore, they take that view, even though I'm saying, and my position is that view is incorrect. Because it was never just for Israelites to do. So how can you have that argument? It was never just for Israelites. Anyway, let's keep going. Taking a long time, and I'm trying to get through this. I'm sorry.
I think those are the ones in which Paul was writing, not really the entirety of the 613, or how we would describe it all as just being the law. I think it's the outward expression of what you are truly saying, you know?
I totally agree. You know what, Kobe? I like that, and I actually agree with that. So what happens here this is why I try to explain to people.
Now notice I'm quiet, and they're about to move on to something else and go to some other scriptures.
Because, of course, the first time a Christian said we're not under the law, they immediately say, oh, that's why y'all support homosexuals and fornication. No, we don't. Because the heart of the law, the heart of the law is righteousness. And so, as you just brought out, I think wonderfully, Kobe, that as we're led by the Spirit, the distinction becomes that the Spirit is going to lead us into those things that point to what the law pointed to, should have driven Israel to do in the first place, which is why right here, let me read one more verse real quick in Romans chapter number 8. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, God did by sending his own son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and on account of sin, he condemned sin in the flesh. Verse 4, that the righteous requirement of the law.
And he's not going here by accident, because we've had this discussion before. And to be quite honest with you, I feel like at this point that he's going to this because he wants me to jump on this argument. But I don't want to. I want to get back to what we was just talking about.
See, might be fulfilled in us who do not walk according to the flesh. Same thing Paul is talking about, but according to the Spirit. So when we walk according to the Spirit, the righteousness of the law is fulfilled in us, which includes not committing adultery, fornication, which those things were under Torah as well, but not under the Mosaic law. We're under the law of Christ as we are led by the Spirit, and the righteous requirement of the law is manifested in our lifestyles every day. I'm just trying to help plumbers see, because plumbers trying to bring in those carnal things that you mentioned, Kobe, in terms of Sabbaths, circumcision, on the 8th day, and other things. He may not believe.
Well, the truth, Elder Mike, is when Moran asked me that, I said, I don't want to talk about that. So that's not what I'm doing here. But what I am doing, what I am doing here is we can't make the Messiah a liar.
If he says
Amen.
not one piece of it's gone, then I got to believe that over you and every other theologian.
Wait a minute.
Hold on. If he say not one jot, not one tittle, I believe him.
Until when?
What does that?
Wait a minute. He did say not one jot, one tittle, but
until
he
all
said,
is fulfilled. But
thank
all
you.
ain't been fulfilled yet.
Yes, it has.
Well, okay, so hold on.
Wait, let Plumber. How has all been fulfilled? Let Plumber.
See, they're trying to get me off into something else right now. He done already went to the scripture and everything. I don't want to do that. We ain't finished dealing with the first part. Well, we ain't finished dealing with the second part, actually, because they went on away from Galatians 3 and jumped all the way over into 5, right? So we're gonna deal with this under the law. That's what I want to deal with. And so I'm not trying to go where they're going.
We moved on, and we really didn't deal with what happened, right? What we just read, because we just read what Launetta said, and it said that sometimes it's referring to people who act illegally. And so then Paul says, if we walk in the Spirit, we are not under the law. And then he names all the things of the flesh. And then he says, for the fruit of the Spirit is, and then after he says that, he says what? For against these things, there is no law. So that means there's no law that says thou shalt not love, thou shalt not have joy, thou shalt not be kind.
No.
Now hold on, listen.
That's just
Don't know me until you hear me. If there's no law against it, it does mean that there's nothing that says thou shalt not do it. That's exactly what that means, Elder Mike.
No, it's not.
So,
no credible source would agree with you, bro.
Hold on, what does the word against mean? The
Bro,
word against.
That's a whole sentence. You can't just snatch one word out the sentence. Against such there is
you
no.
You understanding the word incorrectly. So that's why we're snatching that one word out, because you're understanding it incorrectly. If he said there is no law against love, joy,
that is not what
peace.
that verse
Hold on,
says.
listen.
There's a period after
let
love,
me
joy,
let
peace,
me
long
make my
suffering.
argument, man, and then you can.
You
talk.
made it.
I'm
gonna go back to one word. Okay, I'm not gonna stop. I didn't stop you the first time, but I'm gonna go back.
You keep interrupting before I
no
make
problem. I promise you, I'm not gonna interrupt you. I'm gonna go back to the verse, and after you finish,
go back to the verse.
After you finish, give me an opportunity. Here it is, right here.
Let's go back down to the Spirit part.
Yes, sir. Here it is, right here, sir. Go right ahead. Here it is.
But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, kindness, goodness, faithful, gentleness, self-control. Against this, listen, there is no law. So
now here come the bait and switch on Elder Mike's part here in a second. Just listen to what he says, man.
There's no law that says thou shalt not love. There's no law that says thou shalt not have joy. There's no law that says thou shalt not have peace. Thou shalt not be long suffering. There is no law against these things. But guess what? All those things that are the works of the flesh, every law is against those things. Every law is against those things. You don't see that? So I'm wrong.
I don't see that. I'd be totally confused. But go ahead, Elder Mike. Go ahead.
Real quick.
Well, all right. So don't say nothing now, Plumber. Let him go ahead and talk now. I can't lie. I'm scratching my head. And this one in here talking about checkmate. This is crazy to me. Go ahead. I'm just muting myself. Go ahead.
Okay. Against such things, there is no law. Right? Against such, there is no law. All this means is that when one is walking completely in the Spirit and these fruits are being manifested in their lives, there is no law against it.
Isn't that what I just said? There is no law against it. That's what I just said. There's no law that says thou shalt not love, thou shalt not have joy, thou shalt not have peace, long suffering. I just said that. He said, no, that's not what that means. And then he gets up here and he reads and says exactly what I said. But here come the bait and switch.
Right. There. In other words, no accusation can be made, which is why he goes on to say, and those who are Christ have crucified the flesh.
So he took that phrase, against such there is no law, and he minimized it to mean no accusation can be made. If you're living like this, they can't make no accusation against you. And I mean, that would apply. I don't disagree with that. But it's saying more than that, because it said if you walk in the Spirit, you are not under the law. Right? Let's keep going.
Flesh with its passions and desires, because these people are operating fully under the Spirit, right? Love is being operated, joy, peace, and the rest of it, all 9 of these fruit of the Spirit. You saying like it's self-control against.
Now this let me play that again, because this is what now you're gonna try to tell everybody and me what I'm saying when he just said exactly what I'm saying. But let us check it out. Where we at right here? This is what. Let's move it back just a hair. Let's see what he says.
That we're not under the law if we're led by the Spirit. We've already proven what law he was talking about. I don't. Here's the bottom line, and then you can bring Plum back in.
I messed this up.
On this. The bottom line is this.
I think I messed it up. Hold on.
No, against such there is no law. This is a whole sentence. It's matter of fact. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can say. And those who are Christ have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires, because these people are.
I'm not that good at it like everybody else.
Under the Spirit, right? Love is being operated, joy, peace, and the rest of it. All 9 of these fruit of the Spirit. You saying like it's self-control against, right? No, against.
Is that what I'm saying? Am I saying gentleness against? I mean, he's trying to change my argument. He's trying to literally change my argument, switch, bait and switch. He is trying to change my argument right now in front of everybody and tell everybody that this is what I mean, or this is what I'm trying to do. But he did exactly what I did. And he read it and he said, against these things, there is no law. Then he minimizes it to, that means there's no accusation that can be brought against him. And now he's trying to change my argument.
Such there is no law. This is a whole sentence. It's matter of fact, hold on one second. Let me see if I can see if we can get clarity real quick. I'm trying to.
No. Plum ain't leave. I just got him in the back because he a little passionate right now.
Yeah, see, he was stuck for a second. And let's just get clarity. I'm trying to, and then out of nowhere, Brian says, "Oh, he's in the back," and now we're just gonna move on like he wasn't trying to get clarity just now.
So anyway, I don't. Here's the bottom line, and then you can bring Plummer back in. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. The bottom line is this. The scripture is clear here that we're not under the law if we're led by the Spirit. We've already proven what law he was talking about, because Paul told us these things that were written in the book of the law. I don't understand. And I agree with Kobe that the righteous is not that we're lawless, right? We still, because some Christians do take this too far and make it about hyper grace, and they can still lie, fornicate, cheat. Grace got me. No, that's not what that means. But it's also not what it means to say we still should be keeping Shabbat, dietary laws, fringes, don't cut the edges of your beards.
No, that's my argument.
I'll just stop right there.
Come on, Kobe.
Okay, that's enough of that. I'm gonna stop right there too with this video, because you heard what he said, and I think I proved my point, but we never got to it. Brian put me in the back and wouldn't let me talk for a second, and at that point I'm just like, and I'm not even gonna keep bringing it up. So let's look at it real quick ourselves. So this comes from a slide that I created for a presentation called Ministration of Life versus Administration of Death, right? And so in the Ministration of Life, we talk about the fruits of the Spirit. The Administration of Death, we talk about the works of the flesh. Now, remember the verse said, those who walk in the Spirit are not under the law. And remember, let's look at this first. Well, no, we'll do this first. So you see what I got? I got life in green and death in yellow. The fruits of the spirit in green and the works of the flesh in yellow. And these are at enmity against one another. They're at odds with one another. You know what Paul says, right? He says the spirit loves the flesh, lusts against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh, right? And these two are at war against one another, right? But anyway, that's part of this presentation. I don't want to get all into that. So, and Paul also tells us what the law is spiritual, but I am carnal. So you see the difference, the dichotomy here. You see the separation. You see what's going on here. They're opposed to one another, flesh and spirit, right? But the works of the flesh are adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, and revelings, right? Right? Isn't that what it said in the verse we just read? And now I'm going to ask you this. And this is what I was trying to get them to see. What laws are against those? How many laws in the Torah are against those things? Isn't the whole Torah against those things? Isn't the whole Torah against adultery and fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, and revelry? Isn't the whole Torah against those things? Isn't the entire law against those? Aren't there laws written in the book that says thou shalt not commit adultery? Thou shalt not fornicate. And then we got the spiritual side, right? Those that walk in the spirit are not under the law. Love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against these, there are no laws. There are no laws that speak against these. So did we read in the definition? Let's look at the definition. Under the law, right? Let's look it up right now. That down here it says it is generally a mistake to render literally the expression those who are under the law, as in Galatians 4:5, because those who are under the law may simply mean people who act illegally. So don't we see that these people are acting illegally? But it says the ones that are in the spirit are not under the law. And against them, they're not acting illegally. There's no law against the fruits of the spirit. Don't we see that clearly? So that those that are under the law are the ones that are breaking the law. They're acting illegally. Even as Elder Mike said, acting illegally is breaking the law. That's what he said. Isn't it easy to see that now? That's in the text. And that's all I was trying to show was under the law in this text means people who act illegally. And we can see it bore out. We can see that bore out in the text. As we read it, we can see it because the ones that are walking after the spirit are not under the law. Why? Because this is the ones that walk. They have love, peace, joy, long-suffering, goodness, faithful, meekness, temperance. And against such, there is no law. There is no law against them. But guess what? The ones that walk after the works of the flesh, there are laws against that. There are laws that says thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not fornicate, thou shalt not practice idolatry, thou shalt not practice witchcraft, right? That's the point. That was the point. So I just want everybody to see that it's not that difficult. And it's not that confusing. The confusion came because you want to manipulate my position to argue against what I'm saying. So, I want to say again, shalom, shalom to everybody, right? Fair use again on this thing, but shalom, shalom to everybody. Thank you for listening to this blueprint. And I'm calling y'all to repentance. And I want you to understand my goal is not to do like Elder Mike said, to make everybody start wearing fringes and keeping the feast days. No, that's not my goal. My goal is to take all the text that you use as an excuse and that you use to say that the law, that we don't do those things anymore, my goal is to take those excuses away from you. Shabbat shalom. Peace. I'm out. Yeah, I had to hurry up and finish before you came in the door.
You heard the music stop.
Yeah, I had to hurry up and say I'm done.
Why you have to? It's muggy in here.
Because you couldn't hear me, but turn it back on. I'm done.